Okay, hey everyone. I am going to just go through real quick the Dick and Jane front loading that we didn't get through in both classes, and then again at the beginning of the book, which is on the second page down here, I'm going to show you, point out a few things in this particular passage that I want you to keep an eye on for your reading. So you can definitely read the questions if you want for the Dick and Jane passage, but I wanted to show you, in case you are unfamiliar with Dick and Jane, okay? So you can see that this is the world of Dick and Jane right here, very 1950s. That's Dick, and that's Jane, and that's Sally, the little sister. They have a dog named Spot, you guessed it, and a cat named Puff. But really what you notice about this world is it's pretty much ideal, okay? Very picturesque. It wasn't until the 1960s that they added a black family to the Dick and Jane experience, and we're not really going to talk about that. But I do want to point out, you can look at, we talked about how the Dick and Jane readers were very simple and repetitive because they were meant initially to teach children how to read. And so repeating those certain sort of sight words until children memorized them, that was how we taught kids how to read back then. But the thing that's important to note for Dick and Jane is the idealism of it, because that is what Toni Morrison is going to be fighting against, and very specifically in this first part here. And we talked about this already, how the first little kind of paragraph here seems pretty normal, right? Maybe the content is weird because it's not what we're used to seeing. But we have a description of a house, a mother, father, Jane, cat, dog, friend, okay? Very, I think, simplistic and a bit innocuous. And then we talked about how the second paragraph loses something, and you see it starts to kind of fall apart here without the punctuation. This is distortion that I was talking about. And then by the end, it's this kind of really impossible to read mess. Everything has completely broken down. There's no really organization or structure, but the words stay the same. So we have the constant repetition of the same words. It's just the structure that makes things fall apart. And we talked about how maybe this is representative of this kind of Dick and Jane world that is so idealistic, is not that way perhaps in real life, or maybe for the people of the book. And this is going to come and play much more later as you read the book. You're going to notice the beginning of some of the chapters of the book begin with parts from this particular text. Morrison always goes back and revisits this text right here. Okay, so that was the importance of the Dick and Jane. This next part here came from the prologue of the novel. So it's the information that we are given before we actually read. And I wanted to point out one of the things that I really like that Morrison does at the very beginning is she begins with, "Quiet as it's kept. There were no marigolds in the fall of 1941. We thought at the time that it was because Piccola was having her father's baby that the marigolds did not grow. A little examination and much less melancholy would have proved to us that our seeds were not the only ones that did not sprout. Nobody's did. Not even the gardens fronting the lake showed marigolds that year. But so deeply concerned were we with the health and safe delivery of Piccola's baby, we could think of nothing but our own magic. If we planted the seeds and said the right words over them, they would blossom and everything would be all right." Morrison begins that little paragraph there as if she's letting us in on a secret, right? Quiet as it's kept. There is an intimacy here. She is about to share something with us. It's something that clearly people do not talk about because it's quiet as it's kept, but it is important nonetheless. And then we learn very early on, boom, line 2 and 3, Piccola was having her father's baby. So there's going to be a bit of trauma in this book, isn't there? We know that there is a character named Piccola, and she becomes impregnated by her father. And we don't know anything more except what the narrator here has just kind of matter-of-factly told us. Okay? She kind of throws it out there as if it's an afterthought, right? Oh yeah, Piccola having her father's baby. Like it wasn't even unusual or something like major. It just kind of fits in with the rest of the text. And then down here, I love what she does. She's setting us up for something that happens very often in this particular book. And it's this idea of children creating their own magic to try to make things better. I think of it as the kind of like, if I can just like get to the stop sign before this car, then there'll be a treat waiting for me when I get home, or some kind of silly childhood game that you may have played with yourself way back when. Or maybe you do still play with yourself. I'm not judging. The next paragraph is a bit reflective. It was a long time before my sister and I admitted to ourselves that no green was going to spring from our seeds. Once we knew, our guilt was relieved only by fights and mutual accusations about who was to blame. For years I thought my sister was right. It was my fault. I had planted them too far down in the earth. It never occurred to either of us that the earth itself might have been unyielding. We had dropped our seeds in our own little plot of black dirt, just as Pacola's father had dropped his seeds in his own plot of black dirt. Our innocence and faith were no more productive than his lust or despair. What is clear now is that of all of that hope, fear, lust, love, and grief, nothing remains but Pacola and the unyielding earth. Charlie Breedlove is dead, our innocence too. The seeds shriveled and died, her baby too. There is really nothing more to say except why. But since why is difficult to handle, one must take refuge in how. Okay, so we are not only given some background information here, but we're also kind of told the end. Like by the end of the novel, Charlie Breedlove, who is Pacola's father, is dead. Pacola loses her baby. The marigolds do not grow. We have no idea what that means for now, but maybe we will later. But I love, love, love this last bit here because I think it's applicable to so many things in our lives. There's nothing more to say except why, but since why is difficult to handle, one must take refuge in how. So perhaps Morrison doesn't have the answers as to why all of these things happen. Why would Charlie Breedlove impregnate his daughter? Okay, why does Pacola's baby die? Maybe we don't have those answers. But the thing that we are going to learn, the refuge that we have, is in the how. How did these things happen? And that is the story that you are about to read. I know you're going to come prepared with lots of questions when I see you again, which is fine. This is a difficult novel. It is filled with lots of unpleasantries and trauma, but it's also a very beautiful book and an important one. I look forward to having a discussion with you.